This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hey guys, welcome back to Breaking Banks Europe. My name is Matteo Rizzi, the executive producer of the show. This is show number 242. It's a special one because we are going to talk about the Milan Fintech Summit that is going to take place in October. And we are with Stefania Di Bartolomeo, CEO of Physis, one of the keynote speakers of the event. Stefania, welcome to Breaking Banks.
Thank you, Matteo. I'm so happy to be here today and can't wait for the FinTech Week to happen in Milan.
Indeed, we are all waiting for, even if we are very likely to be in a very hot place, all of us, and kind of dreaming of the beach. So, Stefania, give us a little bit of background about yourself, and then we'll talk about Physis a little bit, and then what are going to be the 2 or 3 highlights of your talk at Milano Fintech Summit, please.
Sure. Today, I am in my hometown. I was born in the south of Italy in a national park called Cilento Park. And I was so lucky to grow up surrounded by trees and nature. And these roots of mine have helped me shape the person I am today. I always felt that we needed to preserve the natural ecosystem. And growing up and studying I studied finance, I realized that there is so much that we can do in terms of moving money to companies and projects that can improve the world we live in and protect the environment. And yet we don't take action. So I started figuring out how we could all take action. And long story short, I became a fund manager focusing on moving money to companies and projects that were respecting the people and the planet. Doing this job in Milano, I also came across many challenges. The first one was lack of information, lack of objective data so that I could really make sense and make a decision if investing one company versus the other would really generate positive impact as long as financial return. Facing this challenge firsthand made me realize there was so much more in terms of innovation and new product that needed to be brought to market. And I started to figuring out if there was something that I could personally do, if I could take action and contribute to really build a better and more transparent economy.
So, when you were talking, I thought about my past at Swift, the global standards organization that is making financial services messaging, standardization. And I think this is looks like the greatest challenge here, right? So, how advanced are we in standardize, because measuring and standardizing is at the core of this business, right? So, and there are many initiatives. Can you talk us a little bit about, how many ways of measuring this type of impact there are?
So the work that we do with Physis is the work that we collect information provided by companies, mostly public disclosure companies on the stock market, and we provide this information back to investors with cleanup and tools that makes their life easier. And the life of the investor we serve, our investors need to build portfolio, need to make comparison analysis. The work that you're referring to, it's very important and is the base of how companies are disclosing information, how companies are collecting and calculating, for example, their CO2 emission. That's a job that we at Physis don't do, but it's absolutely key also to keep improving the quality of the information that we provide back to investors. As of today, there are different standards that help companies report on their emission, on their water usage, on diversity. Some of these standards have been generated through sustainability reporting framework like the GRI or the IRC. I compared to where we were 10 years ago, where company didn't even know how to start building and then reporting their CO2 emission. Now we are like literally walking on the moon. But yet you're right, there is still some level of normalization and standardization that needs to happen. And probably the biggest challenge is that big companies have already started their journey like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they're farther along. And now we see the challenge among the smaller players, the smaller companies that are lacking this capacity and also lacking a little bit of standardization that needs to be slightly different than the ones that the big companies use to report their sustainability information. But compared to where we were even just 5 years ago, now we are ages ahead. Companies are reporting, they start wondering how to build that level of reporting, and new type of standardization are happening, both at private organization, but also thanks to new regulation coming to life. We know all that the European Union is doing to keep pursuing transparency at every single stakeholder level in the financial world.
So you mentioned, actually, you anticipated another topic I want to discuss, which is, if you take even a country like Italy, where we are both from, or Portugal, where I currently live, SMEs and micro SMEs are actually at the core, right, of the economic structure. And I wonder, how big is the impact of the regulation, and how much can you force, because for listed companies is easier, all the information is public, they have, the disclosure is mandatory, everything has to be extremely transparent, it is also easier to, let's say, put them at work. But when you're talking about SMEs, I think that the way is much longer. And I wonder, is it like a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach? You see what I mean? So it's how much can we enforce this type of reporting?
I always have this idea that change really happens when there is a bottom-up approach and top-down approach. The top-down approach in this case is new regulation that are enforcing a different level of transparency. And then the bottom-up is that users, stakeholders, for example, people that are buying products of that company or investors in that company need to have access to a different level of granularity of the information regarding the operation of the company. So at this point in time, we are really facing an amazing time of change. Top-down and bottom-up both are moving towards a different level of transparency. But this is also becoming a little heavy on the smaller players because they don't really know exactly where to start, how much it will cost, and if it's for them an extra cost. And I might have to say, it is for the first couple of years something that they need to start learning, they need to attempt, they might need to spend some extra money, but it will all be paid back. Because the more you are able to declare to all your stakeholders, from the people that buy your product to the people who invest in your product to the people that lend you money, the more you can declare how sustainable you are, how transparent you are, and trustworthy you are as a company, the more you will see your value grow.
So, that if we think a little bit on the investor side, how much sort of take-up is having what I call the responsible investment, right? So I'm an investor myself, is only recently as a VC, right? So not like a private equity type of, which is, let's say, way more, let's say, we're more built in, in the reasoning. But for venture capital, for young startups, I want to say getting green is not, their main concern, right? On the other hand, you see at the investor side, so, all this, the new ways, of saving that is, way more conscious, of, what the planet is going to be, what the criteria of sustainability this fund or this ETF has, how much education is needed? Because at the moment it seems a little bit like, whomever get that sensitivity, gets along, and the others are sort of left in the natures. What about the literacy around it? Are investors educating, their clients to doing this? Or I'm asking you as a spectator of what your clients are actually living right now, right? So what's your perception?
This is a great topic. Maybe we should address it assessing the financial industry in three big segments: the capital markets, the private equity, and then the venture capital. The capital market investors are extremely well educated today. They have started years ago. All the asset managers in the world have at least a small sustainability team, if not even a team of 30 people. And they all have started investing with a sustainability lens for years now. So capital markets investors are way more educated, way more inclined to integrate extra financial information into their investment decision process. Private equity firms or also investment bankers, we see that in the last 5 years, the amount of deals made on sustainability, on green energy has grown exponentially. And so we see that their focus has been on this type of segment because indeed is the future. Maybe they have operated more with a focus on the quality of the product and the innovation that the company brings in terms of sustainability is slightly less on the quality of the sustainability at an operational level. By operational level, I mean if they really have a diversity in their board, if they have really reduced or been efficient in the resource management, like water, CO2 emission. But that also kind of makes sense a little bit, considering that we're talking about smaller companies, okay, where in a growth stage, your main focus is sincerely to grow, taking into consideration some management of energy resource, some energy resource management, but it's not the key focus. In the VC world, somehow we see what is happening in the private equity world, but slightly less. There are so many VC that have raised funding in the last few years with one key focus, either investing in diversity or investing in sustainability companies that do green or contribute to really build a better future for us all. And this is amazing. Like if you see most of the new funds that have raised money have this specific focus. But what happens when you invest as a VC, you are investing at such an early stage. You barely have an idea. Some companies might have a couple of million in revenue, and you really need to start building the product. You really need to start building the team. And at that point, some priorities that can be very key for huge companies might be less important as such a small company. But yet, there are more and more VC that are inclined in their due diligence to consider how you treat your employees, what type of policy you have, if you really have a diversity team. Because in the end, long-term, if you analyze trends long-term, diversity team have better performance. Companies that include sustainability principles since day one are the most likely to survive over time. And so sustainability, again, and extra financial information at every stage, from VC to private equity to capital markets, do help assessing how resilient and how important the growth of a company can be over time.
So you are speaking at the FinTech conference, right? And do you think that the financial industry and specifically the FinTech one, because you can be considered as a FinTech, I guess, right? So
yes,
do they have a greater responsibility, in terms of, how impactful, their way of thinking is going to change the way we think about sustainability, right? Because people think relate sustainability more on have industry, pollution, carbon footprint and less into pure financial services space, which seems like the digital world, right? So how do you reconcile this, fintech and sustainability at the same time?
Sustainability is something that every single company, from a restaurant to a large data company in fintech, needs to take into consideration. So I see today we all have this level of awareness that we didn't have years ago. I'm expecting, since this is a period of transition, we are getting awareness. And the next big thing will be an evolution of how we operate, how we think, how we plan to successfully grow over time. So I see this as a transition period. I honestly have talked to so many growth stage fintech doing anything from blockchain to data to wealth management, and they all are taking into consideration how to better integrate sustainability in their business operation and future plans. Because doing that enables them to improve performance, but also to get more investors and more quality investors. My overall view has always been very simple regarding the importance that the finance world has towards sustainability. As financial players, we can move big money, and change happens when we are able to move this big money into companies and projects from VC level to large companies on the stock market that can really build a better future. So we need to enable all players in the financial industry to being able to get access to quality information, make informed decision, and build portfolio or invest in companies that really are shaping a better future for us all. I know I keep repeating the same thing, but because it's absolutely important. And this is a clear connection. If investors invest money in good companies, in good projects, those companies provide performance, but also generate a positive impact. Those money go back to investors, and investors keep enforcing this positive loop. It's as simple as this.
So tell me something. You are now in the Cilento, but the Physis headquarters are in the US, right?
Yes.
So how is being an entrepreneur in the US as a career? Because you this is your first official I want to say entrepreneurship venture. Am I correct?
Yes, it is correct. Before I was working at corporations. Yes.
Exactly. So how is the switch personally, and how is it to do it? I mean, I understand you studied at MIT, so it's not like a US.
Harvard, not MIT.
Harvard. Sorry. It was there is a very nice expression in English that say, if it's not a soup, is a wet bread, right? let's leave it for the few that will understand it. But sorry, at Harvard. So it is not an unfamiliar environment. Yet being an entrepreneur in the US sounds super competitive, super harsh, like a jungle. Is that the feeling you're having right now?
No, I feel I've been blessed to start my company in the US, specifically at Harvard, because there is a supporting ecosystem towards innovation. Something that I haven't really felt as strong as in the US here in Italy. There is a supporting ecosystem. There's some level of competitiveness, but also, and it's more important, collaboration. So we as entrepreneurs understand that if we walk together, if we're figuring out how to solve problems together, we can go faster and we can build something bigger and greater. So this is what I really see in the US: collaboration, strong inclination towards innovation, strong inclination toward also making mistakes. I've been into this journey now for a few years. I've made so many mistakes. My investor allowed me to make those mistakes because they anticipated that not everything could have gone great, could have been right, the right call, the right decision. I'm not so sure how in Europe we approach any type of mistakes, or we approach this level of collaboration, or also this ability to say, okay, innovation happens when we all try together to do something different, instead of just respecting or keep going with the way things have always been done. In many ways, I do wish that the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship that we have in the US can be brought a little bit more in Italy.
Is that related to the reason why you're coming to Milan? I mean, what are the 2 or 3 objectives in bringing Physis to the Milano Fintech Summit?
Well, I am Italian, and I am very, very proud of being Italian. And I take all the opportunities I have to come back and feel what is going on in Italy, talk to other players, and if I somehow can contribute to improve or just bring my experience in Italy, I am happy. Additionally, we already have clients in Italy, so the European market is a market that Physis looks with interest, especially because in many ways, when it comes to sustainability or sustainable portfolio management, it's way ahead than the US.
Why do you think is that? Because of this strong, let's say, regulation-based culture? I mean, there are a lot of fields, including, payments, how instant payments, some works from the central banks that in Europe is way more advanced than the US. Is your field sort of playing in the same way, where Europe is more advanced, and why?
Well, talking about bottom up and top down as we started, Europeans, they have a stronger sense of responsibility toward the environment. Something that in the US is not so developed, especially if you forget California and the New England, New York area. European people have a stronger interest in preserving the environment. And so that type of approach has also been brought into investment a few years ahead than when the US started. And regulation have helped, for sure, have helped build more of a mainstream approach to sustainability.
Last question. In which phase is Physis right now? Are you fundraising, looking for growth, expanding? Tell us a little bit about the story of the company.
Yes. So we built a technology, and it took us multiple years to perfect it, not just to build, but to perfect the technology that we built that automatically collects information from company reports, website, clean up this information through our proprietary algorithms. And then we built a front end, like a platform that enables users to take full advantage of this data to really simplify their day-to-day as investors. We currently are very excited that we have started also generating a ChatGPT type of a solution. So a chatbot that enables literally everybody, not just our key target market, financial professional, but also academic, journalists, whoever wants to access sustainability information, to immediately ask a question and get a response back. You want to know how many women Disney hired or how much CO2 emission Disney had generated, you simply need to ask a question to the chatbot and get the response back. We're still perfectioning this new product, and we do welcome people that want to help us testing, because as you know, as every Gen AI, the more you test it, the more the system can learn and improve. So we are at the forefront of this new expansion that will enable us to go from our key target market, professional investors, to literally everybody who is in need of sustainability information at ease. We are hiring more people. This is also always an exciting process to keep enlarging the team. Our main operation are in the US. We have an office in Boston, in Chicago, and in Miami. And we do look forward to open an office in Europe. We haven't yet decided where. Milano is definitely on the list. We will see. Fundraising, you as a startup, you're always fundraising somehow. Even if we are not currently raising today, we are always welcoming new connection with VC, new investors that have an interest in what we do, so that when the time it comes that we need more money to keep expanding our operation, we already have built those connections. Because to me, it's important to know my investors and to feel that they can contribute and want to be part of this journey.
Stefania, our time is up. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and also some of the insights that you're going to share with the community in Milan. I suppose that I'm going to let you enjoy some more time with your family in Italy, and look forward to see you in a couple of months in Milan.
Same here. Looking forward to the event. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Stefania. And don't log off just yet. Stay tuned for a new segment of Fintech Groove with Matteo Castelnuovo. Thank you.
Fintech Groove, on the tracks of an innovation that leaves its mark. The new podcast column powered by Milan Fintech Summit and Breaking Banks Europe. Hosted by Matteo Castelnuovo. Hi all and welcome to this first episode of Fintech Groove, our column dedicated to find out what's new in the innovation produced by fintech companies. Today we want to talk about the risks brought by financial exclusion around the world. In fact, it seems to be impossible, but nowadays an estimated 2.5 billion working age adults around the world have no access to the types of formal financial services delivered by banks, and this kind of financial exclusion significantly and indiscriminately increases the risk of social exclusion and poverty. To talk about this, we are glad to have with us Christian Richmond Nzi, founder and CEO at Mygrants, the digital platform which offers training, job placement, and credit access services for migrants and asylum seekers in Italy. Thank you for being with us, Chris.
Thank you, Matteo, for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
So, Chris, today with you, we want to talk about the importance of financial inclusion. But before of this, we want to better understand how was the beginning of Mygrants. What was the idea from which you started to create your fintech company?
Well, thank you for the question. We incorporated Mygrants back in 2017. After I've been working for 5 years as a data scientist for a private agency of the European Commission. And basically my job was the monitoring of all the factors that could lead to the potential movement of individuals towards the external borders of the European Union. And during that time, we had the so-called Arab Spring, and I had the privilege to be in the right place to understand the struggle of the European Union and member states in managing what we call migration flows. So I decided to resign from the agency and to build a digital tool that could also support asylum seekers and refugees in their personal, professional, and financial inclusion in Italy and in Europe, but also to support host communities in generating more value by including professionally and financially asylum seekers and refugees. So that's the reason why I decided to create this for-profit company in Italy, and we incorporated the company in 2017 with the desire to build a digital platform with several services. We started with training, upskilling, and background validation of asylum seekers and refugees. We then, in 2021, evolved with the services including the job placement and career placement to faster the access to professional job opportunities. And right now, since a couple of years, we are also working on what we call access to credit to build more trust between asylum seekers and financial providers, especially banks, insurances, and householders.
And so, according to you, or from your point of view as a fintech company in the Italian market, what are the challenges and opportunity offered by the market, and also what are the scenario in which you are moving today?
Well, first of all, it is true that we are moving towards what we call a digital transformation. So it is important to understand how providers, especially banks, are leveraging technologies to provide their services to different type of potential targets. It's also true that asylum seekers and migrants in general are excluded from, say, basic financial services, but also more complex financial services, because there is a lack of information about their backgrounds, their financial trustworthy, and there is a lack of trust from financial institutions in general. There's the need or the opportunity to demonstrate and to showcase the trustworthy of asylum seekers and migrants, but to do so, they need somehow to get access to credit to showcase their ability to eventually repay the loans and build more trust towards financial institutions. So this is the huge opportunity that we have. There are some players already working in this field, but not systematically, and this is what we want to do. So democratize the access to credit and showcase that migrants, asylum seekers, refugees are equipped with the skill set and also the tools to be financially included in Italy and worldwide.
And this is increasingly important, is more and more important for all the younger, but also all the people in general, we can say, in order to get an equality in the credit access services around the world. But according to you, I think, for example, the new technologies or the emerging technologies like AI or other trends in the fintech world could help this kind of process and could help also maybe your activity to get more and more success?
Yeah, no, there is a huge debate around new technologies, including AI, and so far, I believe that new technologies could become a barrier to access for specific services, including our target, so asylum seekers and migrants and refugees, but also believe that new technologies are able to enable our beneficiaries and our target in getting access to those kind of services. So we need to pay attention on what we call bias, but it's also true that we need to leverage those kind of new technologies to improve not just the quality of the service for that specific target, but especially the understanding of the potential of this target. So we do also leverage and include in our services those kind of technologies, because we truly believe that this is a huge advantage to showcase the potential of our targets and to build more trust between our beneficiaries and financial institutions in general.
And so thank you for your spotlight on this and for being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation, Matteo.
Guys, it's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with Fintech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.